Right now, in the Caribbean, there's this huge geopolitical standoff playing out between the United States and Venezuela. It's a really tense situation, full of serious accusations, military moves, and a massive human crisis. So, let's break down what's really going on here.
At the heart of it all is one big question. Is Venezuela actually a threat to the United States? Well, depending on who you ask, you get two completely different answers. We're going to unpack both of them, looking directly at what our sources are saying.
So, first up, let's look at the argument coming from the United States. The picture they paint is of an immediate and direct danger, basically right in America's own hemisphere.
And this quote from Florida Congresswoman Maria Salazar really gets to the core of the U.S. argument. It frames the entire issue as a matter of national security, and it all starts with illegal drugs.
The argument here is that this isn't some far-off problem. It's happening, as they say, in our backyard. The accusation is that Venezuela has basically become a narco state, a country run by drug traffickers, which makes it a direct threat because it's so close. They talk about drugs like fentanyl and cocaine flooding our streets, and they tie it all the way to the top. President Maduro himself has actually been indicted in the U.S. on drug trafficking charges.
But of course, that's just one side of the story. If you look at it from the perspective of Venezuela's president, Nicolás Maduro, the narrative is completely flipped. He doesn't see U.S. actions as defense, he calls it imperialist aggression. In a statement that the BBC reported on, President Maduro, well, he doesn't hold back. He calls the American military presence an act of imperialist aggression, basically a powerful country using its army to illegally intimidate a smaller one. He says it's disproportionate and extravagant. It's a total rejection of the U.S. claims.
And he actually takes it a step further. The official line isn't just denying the accusations, it's a complete reversal. Maduro's government insists that Venezuela has never been and will never be a threat to the U.S. In fact, they argue that their country is a guarantee of security for the whole continent.
You know, this whole war of words isn't just happening in a vacuum. It's all being backed up by some pretty serious military pressure. And it's unfolding against the backdrop of a huge humanitarian and political crisis that has truly gone global.
To really drive its point home, the U.S. has sent around 15,000 troops to the waters near Venezuela. Now, to put that number in perspective, our sources point out this is the biggest American military buildup in that region since the invasion of Panama back in 1989. So yeah, this is more than just a warning, it's a major show of force.
And while these two governments are facing off, the people of Venezuela are caught in a devastating crisis. An estimated 8 million people have fled the country since Maduro came to power. That's created one of the largest refugee crises in the entire world, and it's changed the face of cities all across the Americas and even in Europe.
Meanwhile, inside the country, the situation is also incredibly tense. According to our sources, there are over 2,000 political prisoners being held right now. This kind of crackdown on any opposition helps you understand why so much of the protest movement has had to move outside of Venezuela's borders.
Exactly. Because of all that pressure at home, the opposition has basically gone global. You have leaders like Maria Corina Machado calling for these peace and freedom protests in over 80 cities across 20 different countries. They're using that massive international diaspora to try and build support for change from the outside.
So, what have we got? We have military forces in the Caribbean, a political standoff, and millions of displaced people. And all of this brings us right back to that central question. Why does any of this matter? Let's quickly break down the two very different answers.
And right here, you can see the two perspectives side by side, and they just couldn't be more different. From the U.S. view, this whole thing matters because there's a so-called narco state in its backyard that poses a direct security risk. But from the Venezuelan government's view, it matters because a global superpower is carrying out what it calls imperialist aggression, threatening its very existence as a sovereign nation. These two realities are just completely at odds with each other.
So this is a conflict being fought on so many different fronts. You've got the military pressure, the political games, and this huge global community of displaced citizens all pushing for change. It's a real pressure cooker. And all of it leaves us with a deeply uncertain future and one single, really pressing question. What comes next?